right, fifth grade, if you are watching this video, it means that you're ready for the step of pre-writing. As I mentioned in the introduction video, that looks a little bit different this time, and so I kind of want to talk to you about it. So you have 4 options for pre-writing for this memoir. Obviously, you've used 2 of these graphic organizers before, so I'm encouraging you to try the 3rd option, or I've given you a 4th. The 4th option is the first one that I'm going to talk about. It's create your own graphic organizer. So in a sense, you're creating a custom graphic organizer. This is just a Google drawing. It says create your own graphic organizer to fit your own personal creative process, add shapes, text boxes, lines, etc. to create your custom organizer. So the way this works, if you want to do a text box, you're just going to drop one in here and you're going to do it like this, okay? And then you could just start typing. I don't like the idea of just a plain old text box though, because a lot of times when we're planning out a piece of writing, our ideas are connected to each other. And so a plain text box doesn't really allow for that. So then the next thing I'm going to show you is how to insert shapes, which can also be text boxes. And sometimes they also have like arrows where you can connect them with lines. So we have a whole bunch of different shapes. Don't get silly on this, okay? Obviously, if you choose this lightning bolt to be one of your shapes, you're not going to have a whole lot of room to type in it, okay? But let's just say you inserted a shape and you do want to use it as a text box. Then all you have to do is click on the inside of that shape and you'll see that my cursor comes up and then I can start filling it with my text. Like I said, doesn't really work so great with a lightning bolt, so don't be silly and insert shapes that are going to make it difficult for you to read what you've actually planned out. So back to the shapes, you can see we can do boxes, we can do circles, triangles, all different things. This next one is one of my favorites. It's the arrows. I especially like these that have the box on top because it's like a cross between a text box with an arrow. There are call outs. Again, these are like speech bubbles. And then equations, which you guys probably don't need. So you can do shapes and you can create, so that looks just like a text box, but then you can add a line and connect it to other ideas. Oops, I meant to click on shapes. There we go. You can, what am I doing here? Shapes, square, there we go. Okay, so you could create your own web, you could create your own timeline, you could create a cause and effect chain just using shapes and lines, okay? So I'm going to undo that. Well, I'm not going to undo it. I'm just going to show you some other stuff, okay? You could insert images by searching the web. So maybe your brain works in pictures and you want to map out your experience using pictures or graphic representation. So maybe the thing that I want to write about is the time I played kiss tag in kindergarten. I would never do that, by the way, because that would be too awkward, but I know that's a topic you guys keep hoping I will write about. So let's say that I did get brave and decided to write about that. I could look for like the kiss emoji, okay? And I could insert that in here. And so I could put that in the center of my graphic organizer and that would represent kiss tag, okay? And then, and I wouldn't even need the shape really. I could just connect my images with lines, okay? And so let's say I want to start out my memoir by telling them about kindergarten recess, okay? So I might search the web for kindergarten. Let's say clip art. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this one. Oops, there we go. Okay. And so I might drag it down here and connect it to my other picture because it started at recess, right? And so then I could continue searching for images that represent the details in my experience to map it out, okay? Really, the possibilities are endless. I just wanted to give you some ideas and offer up some possibilities for you. But the whole point of a custom graphic organizer is to really, really, really get to the heart of your creative process, and the way that your brain works and the way that it needs to map out your experience. The ones that I've shared with you here in the assignment, aside from that custom organizer, they're standard ones. You've seen them before, you've used them before. The one thing I want to remind you of with the custom graphic organizer is that you remember to include somewhere on here the theme, like your prediction for what you think your theme or your so what is, okay? So don't forget that. Don't leave that out. And then, of course, your other options, I've already explained these before, but it's a web where you kind of map out what happens in your experience and who is in your experience and when and where your experience takes place, as well as your theme and your so what and kind of how things go. So I don't think you probably have too many questions about that. I know that this happens to be a graphic organizer that some people really, really like. Maybe there's a specific part of this graphic organizer that you really, really like. You know, you could create something similar on your custom organizer and then just use the parts that you really, really like, but then plan the other parts in a way that works better for you. But anyway, this is the web. And then, of course, this is the plot diagram. And the only thing that I really want to talk about in this one is the stuff that I keep getting asked. What's the protagonist versus the antagonist? Well, you are the protagonist because you're the main character, or you're the character telling the story. The antagonist is the force that's working against you. And to really identify these, you have to identify the conflict first. The conflict is the problem or the thing that happens that keeps you from progressing, through your memory. And if there isn't any conflict in your memory, then it's probably not a memoir-worthy experience, okay? I also get asked a lot, climax, what am I supposed to put there? Well, this is where you would put the event where it was the most intense moment for you, the person that's in the memory. And it's usually when your conflict is at its worst, but it's also when you kind of start to change directions and you start to gain some ground on that conflict and resolving it. That's why we start moving down and things get wrapped up here, okay? So I think that's it. Maybe resolution, I should talk about that. That's how the conflict gets solved. So if you know what your conflict is, then you can identify the force that's working against you. We call that the antagonist. And if you can identify your climax, the most intense moment of your memory, then you can absolutely also identify your resolution, because that's when that conflict finally gets solved. And it's also how you know that you are done explaining your experience. Okay? Again, your theme and your so what or your why is the life lesson that you learned through the experience that you're writing about, or it's your prediction about why your heart and your mind have hung on to this memory. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the other options for pre-writing, or the last option for pre-writing, because I already talked about the custom. And that is this one. This is the timeline, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You're just mapping out the details and the event all in one text box, and you're following it from the beginning to the ending. Pay attention to the arrow placement on the line because that determines the sequence of the events. Make sure you predict or write something in here for what you think your theme or your so what or your why is. And that's pretty much it. So guys, don't skimp on your pre-writing. Take your time and map it out, because if you do a good job pre-writing, then I hope that you've learned that your first draft comes together pretty quickly because you've already spent the time mapping it out. One thing I encourage you not to do is to spend time filling out these graphic organizers and then you get to your draft one and decide, oh wait, I'm going to abandon the topic. Don't just jump in and start drafting. If you switch topics, then you need to go back and you need to pre-write for your new topic, okay? Also, I can't reiterate this enough. You do not need to complete all 4 of these graphic organizers. You're picking one and then you're using that to set up your memoir. Okay, guys? So let me know if you have any questions regarding pre-writing. If I didn't address something that you're still confused about, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, remember, you're just choosing one, preferably one that you haven't used before, or creating your own custom graphic organizer. All right, guys, good luck, and I can't wait to read memoir number 3.